Hey, good people. Kirby Obsidian. I want to start off with a thank you. A huge thank you to those of you who are not only watching my videos, but who are commenting on my videos. The main reason I wanted to do this channel was to engage with people who don't see things the way I do. And I'm hoping to persuade some of you. If not to totally persuade you to my point of view, to get you to think maybe a little deeper or a little bit more clearly about why you feel the way you do. So I really thank those of you who have just come with some really thoughtful, some real sincere comments which show that you care as much as I do about what's going on in this country. Now, I have to say, my time is limited in the sense that I can't respond as fully as I would like to all of the comments. If you look, you'll see that there have been some really in-depth exchanges between me and some of you who have commented. But I can't do that. I just don't have the time to do that to every comment. So I want to invite you to exchange, have a dialogue with one another also. You can answer other people's comments, and we can have a community of voices discussing these issues. So I hope that will happen. Now, one of the there are a few reasons why this dialogue is so important. First of all, it humanizes the conflict, the disagreements, if each side is really giving thoughtful responses to what the other is saying, then we have to recognize that it's not a matter of good and evil. It's a matter of having a different perspective on things, maybe weighing some factors more than we weigh other factors. And so it brings us closer to our shared values. If we go beneath the surface and look at where our disagreements actually are, it brings us closer to what we actually agree on, to those values that we have in common. Now, another thing that it does is it reveals to us the holes in what we're thinking or believing. If I am in an echo chamber and just speaking to people who feel the way that I do, if there's just a lot of and this too, and how about that, and we're just kind of piling on, what we think to be right. But if we're having that exchange with someone who feels very differently, it forces us to slow down, to look a little deeper, to recognize that, hey, there are holes in what I know. I don't know everything. My evaluation of everything isn't correct. And so that happens on my side, and that happens on the opposition side. I think one clear example of that for me is the debate on censorship. When I first heard criticism from the right about how the left is responsible for so much censorship, I thought, this is ridiculous. It's the right that's always banning books and all that sort of thing. But in taking that face on and listening to what was being said, I have to acknowledge, yes, there is an issue of censorship on the left, that we do often want to cut out, exclude voices of the far right, that are religious in ways that we think are wrong. Um, and personally, I side with the critics in that regard. I happen to believe that there should be as little censorship as possible. So that for me, I don't think we should have, these laws against, even against certain forms of hate speech. I mean, if someone has a philosophy that says this group of people is better than another group of people, I'm for like debate it, air it out, trust that our rationale and reasons are stronger than yours and are going to win out. When we put a ban on those things, we force them underground into the echo chambers where those voices, those thoughts are just reinforced because they're afraid to, they can't come out into the light and be debated. So, you know, the whole political correctness thing. I get that. As far as I'm concerned, like even the ban on the word nigger, it's an ugly word. Yes. It's painful to hear that. But should it be banned? Should books like, should Huckleberry Finn be banned because the word nigger is probably hundreds of times through that book? No, I don't think so. And that's a great case in point to me because I recently reread Huckleberry Finn. I was motivated to reread it because I wanted to read Jim, the Percival Everett book, and I wanted to reread Huckleberry Finn first. Man, that word nigga is thrown around so often. But here's the thing. What the book is essentially about is this young white boy brought up with a kind of taken for granted faith in the institution of slavery and in the rules of Christianity. He probably believes that Jim and other black people are inferior, but he's forced to confront the institution of slavery and of Christianity, and he really wrestles with it, and he comes out recognizing that he cannot go along with supporting the right to Jim as property. And the reason why is because his love of Jim overrides that. His valuing of Jim as a human being overrides his thinking that, oh, Jim is somebody's property and I'm not supposed to violate somebody's property rights, to the point where he actually ends up saying to himself, well, if I got to go to hell, I got to go to hell because I have to stand by this. So why would one want to restrict access to that book, which has this amazing, beautiful message, because of the word nigger? I just don't see it that way. And that's not to say, it's not a word I like to see freely thrown about. I can hardly watch Dave Chappelle for more than a few minutes at a time because his overly liberal use of that word. But on the other side of the censorship is those of you on the right are talking about we shouldn't be calling Trump a Nazi and an autocrat. Well, I beg to differ. If there is evidence for a thing, then we have to name it. Trump is showing every sign of following the path towards Nazism, towards fascism. Now, while nigger is merely a derogatory term, Nazi and authoritarian are descriptive terms. And if you look at the history of how Nazism evolved and how fascism evolved, you can see the parallels with what's going on in the U.S. under Trump. The disregard of laws, the using of force and intimidation to go against one's enemies, to silence the opposition, the calls to like that judges lose their powers, that media organs be shut down. These are all signs of authoritarianism. So don't go with trying to censor that, because it's descriptive. Now, is it painful to think of these terms as applying to oneself? Yes, I get it. But this whole notion that, we have to do away with wokeness because it's going to make people feel uncomfortable. So damn what? Who says that growth is painless, that there's no discomfort in growth and learning? Do you remember when you learned how to ride a bicycle, how terrifying that was, that you were going to fall and hurt yourself? Yes. Do you remember how difficult it was dating the first time, having sex the first time, how uncomfortable it was? Do you remember your first day on a job, feeling out of place, out of sorts, poorly equipped to do what needed to be done? This is the type of thing that always accompanies learning and growth. And being woke is about becoming aware of certain realities. And is that going to be disorienting? Yes. It's not supposed to be easy. So, but again, to get back to my original point, what debate does, open debate does, is it reveals the holes that we all have in our thinking. Anyone has to acknowledge that when you debate something you believe in, you become more familiar, and that either enhances your belief or it erodes your belief and forces you into making some adjustments. So this is something that's going to benefit all of us. So once again, huge applause, love, respect for those of you who are coming at me thoughtfully, respectfully, sincerely, saying, well, I don't know about that. I disagree with that. Maybe there should, I've had some debates about whether troops should be going into these lawless cities. And it forces me to acknowledge, is crime an issue in some of these places? Yes. Now, I happen to totally disagree that this is what Trump is about, that I don't think he's addressing that lawlessness. And the extent of the lawlessness is totally exaggerated to the point of just being an outright lie. And the lawlessness of a protester saying you shouldn't be snatching people off the street is totally different than the lawlessness of someone raping or killing someone. I'm going on longer than I expected, but I'm going to add, here are my main objections to Trump and to MAGA, and why I vehemently disagree with that platform and why I have like zero respect for Donald Trump. He uses lies to manipulate the unknowing. He gets up there and talks about this person is evil because they happen to disagree with him. He says immigrants are bringing, crime and all this into our cities, which they are not. And people out there who don't know any better fall for that. So he is manipulating the unknowing with just bald lies. And he does it over and over and over again. And MAGA supports him in that. He stokes our fears rather than our capacity for generosity and love. And this is intentional. To heighten, if you don't follow me, all these horrible things are going to happen to you. They're out to get you. Them coming for me is really them coming for you. Again, lies that push our buttons, our most vulnerable buttons, and turn us against one another. And finally, Trump and MAGA are serving the most powerful, the already powerful, who don't need it, at the expense of those of us who basically have given them their power, who have by through our effort, through our work, through the taxes that we pay, through the infrastructure that we have built, through the workers who we contribute to the success of Elon Musk and all these other billionaires, and Trump and MAGA are working to give them even more power by keeping our wages down, by eroding our control over the workplace, etc., etc., etc. Keep the dialogue going. Keep the comments coming. I'd love for you to subscribe. I am trying to build this channel. I am trying to change minds and hearts. Thanks for being with me. I hope you'll stay with me on this journey. Thanks, folks.